The late afternoon sun stretched long, wavering lines of heat across the desert, turning the sand into a shimmering golden sea. Clara pushed through brittle sagebrush, her boots scuffing against the cracked earth. She was usually steady, quick, sure-footed, never rattled by the wide-open quiet of the ranch lands. But now her breath came short and shallow, her heartbeat a frantic drum in her ears. She had only been checking the fence line when the movement in the rocks caught her eye. Too quick, too close. Before she could react, pain flared sharp and white-hot on her forearm. She staggered, clutching the spot where fangs had sunk into her skin. Her vision blurred. The world felt tilted. And that was when she saw Jake up ahead, atop the ridge, silhouetted against the sun, reins loose in his hand, his hat tilted just enough to shade his eyes. "Jake," she called, but it came out a broken whisper. He looked up instantly, as if he could sense danger carried in her voice. Jake wasn't the type to panic. Years of working cattle, of riding out storms that could rip a barn roof clean off, had settled something steady deep in him. But the moment he saw her stumbling toward him, one hand pressed to her arm, his expression cracked. "Clara." He jumped down from his horse in a single stride, boots thudding against the dust. The smell of sun-baked earth surrounded them as he reached her side. "What happened? Talk to me." She opened her hand long enough for him to see the wound. The skin around it was already ballooning, an angry, spreading red that throbbed in time with her pulse. "Snake," she managed, her voice trembling. "I didn't see it till it was too late." Jake's eyes flicked to the rocks behind her. A rattler slid away, scales glinting as it vanished into a shadowed crevice. He swore under his breath, the word low and shaking. "How long ago?" "Seconds," Clara whispered. "Jake, it's swelling fast. I feel lightheaded." She wasn't lying. Her knees wobbled as if they barely remembered how to hold her upright. Jake caught her shoulders, steadying her. She felt the reassuring weight of his hand, but it only faintly pushed back against the growing fog pressing in around her. "Listen," she said, her voice weakening, "you have to suck out the venom. Please, please, Jake. I don't know how long I've got." For the first time since she'd known him, Jake hesitated. Not because he doubted her, but because everything in him recoiled from the fear in her eyes. Fear she wasn't trying to hide. Fear she didn't have the strength to hide. He lifted her arm gently, turning it so the bite faced the fading sunlight. The swelling was spreading too fast. Much too fast. "All right," he said softly. "I'll do it. Hold still." The desert wind stilled as if the whole world were holding its breath. Jake leaned in, his shadow falling over her wrist. Clara squeezed her eyes shut. She could feel the heat of his breath for a moment, then the pressure as he did what instinct, and every old frontier tale, told him to do. The moment his lips touched her skin, a strange taste flooded his mouth. Sharp, metallic, wrong. Not like venom. Not like blood. Something else. He froze. A shock ran through him so strong that Clara felt the tension in his grip. Jake slowly lifted his head, eyes wide, breath caught halfway in his chest. "Jake," she whispered, suddenly terrified. "What is it? What's wrong?" But he didn't answer. He just stared at the wound. Because something about it was horribly, impossibly off. Clara's voice trembled through the dry desert air, but Jake barely heard it. All he could focus on was the bite. On the way the skin around it twitched, not like it was reacting to venom but as if something beneath it was shifting. Moving. Pushing. The desert had gone eerily quiet, the sun half-dipped behind the ridge, casting long shadows that seemed too still, too watchful. Clara swayed, catching herself against his arm. Jake, please say something. Her eyes were wide, not just with pain now but with the kind of fear that comes when someone you trust goes silent at the exact moment you need them to stay steady. Jake swallowed hard, forcing his voice back into shape. Clara, I don't think that was a rattlesnake that bit you. He sat back on his heels, staring at the wound as though trying to make the world shift into something that made sense. Something's wrong. The taste. Clara, venom doesn't taste like that. It doesn't. Burn cold. Clara blinked. Cold. But before Jake could explain, the skin beside the bite pulsed again, more violently this time, a visible ripple racing just under the surface. Clara cried out and jerked her arm back, clutching it to her chest. Jake, it feels like something's crawling in there. Oh God, Jake, make it stop. Jake grabbed her wrist, gently but firmly, trying to keep it still. His heart hammered against his ribs. Hold on. I need to see. Clara resisted for a second, panic making her movements jerky, but she finally loosened her grip and let him angle her arm toward the last sliver of daylight. What he saw made the blood drain from his face. A thin seam opened along the swollen skin, not like a cut tearing but like something beneath the surface forcing its way upward. The edges glistened darkly. A shadow, no bigger than a fingernail, shifted inside. Clara's breath hitched. Jake, what is that? Jake, tell me it's just the venom. That it's just swelling. It's not swelling. The words came out rougher than Jake intended, shattering her hope instantly. Something's moving under your skin. Clara's knees gave out and she sank into the dust. Jake caught her just before she hit the ground, lowering her carefully. Her face had gone pale except for two bright spots of feverish color burning across her cheeks. Jake, I can feel it, she whispered, her voice cracking. It's crawling up my arm. Please, help me. Don't let it reach. She stopped, squeezing her eyes shut as another ripple traveled along her skin. Jake's mind raced. He had dealt with injuries, infections, even bites in the past. But nothing like this. Whatever was inside her wasn't spreading through her blood like venom. It was physically moving. He tore off his bandana and wrapped it around her arm above the swelling, trying to make a makeshift tourniquet. Clara whimpered but nodded through clenched teeth. Clara, look at me, he said, gripping her shoulders. Stay awake, all right. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm not leaving you. Her breaths came shallow and quick. She clutched at his shirt with her free hand, eyes glassy. Don't let it go higher, she whispered. Jake looked again at the wound, and froze as something thin and dark pushed against the new tear in her skin, stretching it wider from the inside. Not venom. Not a parasite he recognized. Something foreign. Something alive. The desert wind picked up suddenly, scattering dust around them, but neither of them noticed. All Jake could think was that he needed to act, and fast. Stay with me, Clara, he said, pulling his knife from his belt, his voice trembling despite every instinct telling him to stay calm. Whatever this is, we're getting it out. He wasn't sure if she heard him. Her eyes fluttered, her breathing thin as paper. And beneath her skin, the thing moved again.